let's move on next and let's talk about the IWGP Global Championship. A new title in
dotted line
Japan,
title, I guess.
Yeah, dotted line title. Triple threat. We got Will Ospreay, who's the champion, against Jon Moxley and against David Finlay, leader of the Bullet Club. This is an interesting match because he essentially has two AEW guys in it. We know that Ospreay's coming over when he is signed with AEW. Jon Moxley, obviously an AEW guy. I guess, Chris, we'll see just how global this championship really is going to be based on how they finish this and what they do with that championship. So I'll throw two questions at you to start. One, your take on just the dotted line championship, like turning that IWGP US title into this global, I guess, a traveling global championship.
Yeah.
For lack of a better way to describe it. And how does Gato book this thing to make sure that the title is presented in the best way possible, being it's a new belt,
and keep partners happy,
and keep business partners happy.
Like that, it's a game. All right, so the title, I've been talking about it for a year and a half now. Like, we're in the midst of a transitional period for New Japan. Like, that's to me, that's so obvious. And I think we saw the beginning of that with the kind of merger of the Intercontinental and World Championships into the Intercontinental and Heavyweight Championships into the World Heavyweight Championship, which we've now had since 2021. And now we're transitioning this title from the US title. Ospreay did the custom belt with the UK title thing into the Global Heavyweight Championship. And so, to kind of break that lineage and start fresh with kind of the two major titles, that to me, it tells me exactly what I've been saying. Like, we're changing, we're starting a new generation, a new era, and we want to create new history. So, and with that, I think Chris Charlton explained kind of the conceptual vision for this title is that, the World Heavyweight title, people come to you, right? People come to Japan to seek out that IWGP World Heavyweight Championship shot. The Global Heavyweight Championship goes to them, right? So hopefully that becomes true, right? I hope we see this defended as the top title on a US show, as the top title on, shows in the UK. They have some designs to do some more stuff with the rest of Asia as well. So hopefully, and they always talk about going south too, to Australia, New Zealand, and all those areas. So as a traveling global championship, if that's true, if that's actually how they approach the title, right? And they don't have a great track record of doing what they're going to say with new titles. So I'm hopeful. Obviously the three competitors in this match are all, native English speakers, if nothing else. So from different parts of the world. So I guess that makes it global. So that is helpful. But I think the vision is to put this in the space that the Intercontinental Championship used to live in, which is that kind of, we've got a bunch of main event guys and maybe two of them can hold, titles that are meaningful, that could headline different size shows. So, on that, I think it's fine. I'm interested to see if it's got a white strap, if we're really going back in time and really just like harkening back to the Intercontinental. I was a little surprised that they didn't just reuse the Intercontinental, but again, I think they really want to go forward instead of looking back. So it makes me a little curious what we're going to do with some of the other kind of legacy titles, I guess. But some of those are just, you got to have a tag team title. You sort of need to have a junior title. Like, I don't think you can change those. So they're probably beholden to those. But so this may be the last major title change. And I think this is kind of the go forward set of championships. And with that said, I mean, I think Will Ospreay would be upset if you called him an AEW guy. If he
Sorry, Will.
Yeah, right. Like, we might get some DMs or something, but I think he's got such a soft spot for his time in New Japan. Like, I think he really, if all things were equal, I think that it's still the place that he could excel. And I have no doubt he'll excel in AEW. I think he's a great pickup there. But I do think he's his intention is to, leave his full-time New Japan career behind in the best way. And that could mean winning this title. So, and then, of course, you got Moxley again, another guy who I think, all things considered, I think he really enjoys his time in New Japan, but it makes the most sense for him to be an AEW guy. It's so interesting. Like, everyone wants to spend some time in Japan, right? And everyone wants to do as much as they can there.
Yeah.
And, I think that's still the reputation of New Japan, regardless of what kind of the Western audience has started to believe. Like, wrestlers, like, this is still big for them. So, the politics aside, then of course you got David Finlay, and like wedging him into this match was a little interesting with a big mallet and crushing some title belts, and is pretty cheesy angle, but
Yes.
Finlay's the leader of the Bullet Club, so like you have to accept that as a fan and say like, all right, he's going to be in some big spots. And again, he's another one of those guys that people don't want to see in that big spot, so they root against him for various reasons. Some storyline, some not storyline, right? But Finlay and Ospreay have a pretty deep history of having some great matches. And Finlay, this year, kind of privately, I've called the Will Ospreay, goodbye tour, because he's been given all of his friends these like great matches, whether he won or lost, or whether his friend won or lost. Like, all these guys that have sort of always been in Ospreay's circle have had their big moments with Ospreay through New Japan. And then this is Finlay's moment like that. So I think a singles match between the two probably would have been better in ring, but I think the three-way creates a little more intrigue. And Ospreay and Moxley had a great match you were probably there. You were there. Yeah.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Chicago.
Great match.
We're the only ones that saw it because that stream was rough, but
oh my God. Yeah.
I've heard the lore. But that match was tremendous, and those guys can go. And obviously you can't burn that match when Will's going to AEW, because that match is going to happen in AEW. So that, did they wedge Finlay in, or did they wedge Moxley in because they had access to him? I don't know, right? Like, or is Moxley coming over because something's going to happen in the Okada match and he's pals with Danielson, right? And they were like, well, we may as well put him on the card because then he's got a reason to be here. So there's some story here, right? Like, I mean, that was an aha that I had a couple days ago. I was like, wait, maybe Moxley's over because of the Danielson match. Like, second, throwing in a towel tease, something like that, right? And we'll probably talk about that match in a sec, I guess. But like, that creates a little bit of intrigue for me with all the connections. So
this one, I'm really curious. I think it's going to be telling, like, how, like, what the relationship between AEW and New Japan really is based on the outcome of this match. Because I think if Tony Khan is just going to be like, look, we're good sending talent over for the G1 and, for a couple talents for your Wrestle Kingdom show, as long as you send some for Forbidden Door, like, that's one thing. And I think, if that's the extent of what the relationship's going to be, I think this match is going to go a certain way. And I don't know that Tony Khan's going to want the championship to be on the waist of Ospreay and Moxley.
Sure.
If that's the relationship, and which means, Finlay might be getting like a huge, huge win here, just because they, politically, they can't put the belt on those other guys.
Yeah. And politically, Ospreay, I'm sure Will Ospreay wants to take that pin.
Yes, right.
Like,
he probably wants to eat,
because they're Finlay and Ospreay have been, they've been through it together, so they're pals.
Well, and it says something to always like beat the champion too, like,
of course,
And so like
that and
matters.
Is Will technically the champion with a new belt? I don't know, right? It's like when Ibushi sort of defended the, it's like the last defense or whatever.
Yes.
He's the incumbent, we'll call him.
Yes, right. On the flip side of that, though, like if Tony Khan is looking at the acquisition of Ospreay and going, well, wow, this is awesome. We have this global superstar, and I want him working these other places to extend, the brand of AEW, and like we have this, deeper working relationship with New Japan. then you could see that. Then I could totally see that title sticking on Will Ospreay as a means to kind of keep the connectivity between him and New Japan as an AEW star intact. So like outside of this being, I think, a really compelling match in ring, and New Japan doesn't do a lot of triple threats, so this is kind of a unique in that regard. The behind the scenes backstage information that we're going to get based on how this match goes, I think is going to be, very fascinating as well.
Yeah, and if Ospreay walks out with the title, he's already challenged Okada for San Jose just like 9 days later. And that to me puts this title at that level that I was talking about, where it is that 1A title. Yeah. Because if you're going to put that title on the line for that match, and that match can obviously draw and sell as a special singles match too, so it doesn't require the title. But if the belt goes to Ospreay and then the first defense is Okada, that's big, because Okada doesn't fight for singles championships that aren't the top title. Like he just doesn't do it. Like he's never in those matches. So if this is going to be, maybe this is the new Okada belt, because then maybe they bounce it right to Okada. No one ever has an issue putting someone over, or no one has an issue putting Okada over. Like he's the king of the mountain and pro wrestling industry. So we'll see. But I also think Ospreay wants people to see him beat Okada, which is why he made that challenge for January, because it happened in the G1. It kind of got glossed over with the rest of the G1. So I think Ospreay, to some extent, probably wants to get a win in a space where, both politically and character, in a space where people are paying attention. So if I had to bet, though, I think Ospreay wins, because I think that's the most surprising result. And then I think he carries it into the match with Okada in San Jose, and I think there's actually a pretty good chance that they do a double surprise and he also wins that. And then maybe he drops it somewhere along the lines in February. And then I think once it's out of this kind of sphere, the Ospreay world, and this is all to say, like, this holds true as long as David Finlay's not the winner here. I think that sets this title up to be really desirable. And I think that's obviously got to be the objective of a new title, that you want to be kind of the 1B or 2A of the company.